Meeple Nation Podcast, episode 480. Meeple Nation, June 2023 news.
Welcome, citizens, to Meeple Nation. Grab your favorite beverage, pull up a chair, warm up those dice, and join us at the game table as we discuss board games and the board gaming world. Each week, the hosts of Meeple Nation share their love for board games and the amazing memories that come from playing games with some very outstanding people. Let us now join our hosts in their natural habitat, the game table.
We are the hosts of Meeple Nation. I'm Nathan Howard.
I'm Dave Holliday.
I'm Mogan Howard.
I'm Andy Holliday.
And I'm Douglas Stewart.
Meeple Nation Podcast is sponsored by GameToppersLLC.com.
We are the hosts of Meeple Nation. I'm Douglas Stewart.
I'm Nathan Howard.
I'm Dave Holliday.
And I am Andy Holliday. Guess we'll just leave the sponsorship at there.
Where's my stamp? I approve.
There you go. All right, we'll start over. No, we'll just leave it like that. That's fine.
Are you sure?
Okay.
Say something nice about Game Toppers, Andy.
Meeple Nation is sponsored by GameToppersLLC.com. Go to their website, check out their amazing products. We all love the Game Topper products that we have in our homes and in our game rooms, and I'm sure that you will too. They have toppers, mats, and accessories for your toppers. They're amazing products, high quality. Check them out, GameToppersLLC.com.
They turned a lot of heads at SaltCon.
They did indeed.
Welcome to Meeple Nation. We are the hosts. I'm Douglas Stewart.
I'm Nathan Howard.
I'm Dave Holliday.
And I am Andy Holliday.
That was such a good pause, Andy.
Was it?
It really was.
Thank you, Dave.
Very nice.
It's nice, dramatic pause.
Yeah. Feeling
Well done.
dramatic today.
Yeah. Well done. Those acting classes paid off.
Thanks. Money well spent.
Well, if you'd like to learn a little bit more about Andy and his drama, you can head on over to meeplenation.com where you can read about him and maybe read some blogs that he's written. You can also check out episodes to all of our past episodes. And we would love it if you would...
Episodes to our past episodes?
Yep. Is that what I said?
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm really tired tonight, guys. I'm really tired.
It works.
And you can check out links to all of our past episodes. I have no idea where I was at with all that. It's just scratch it. We're starting over.
So here's the deal, though. Like you said before, I mean,
No, you're good.
like it's okay to have some goof and some funny. And
Yeah, I
It
think I leave
is,
it in
but
there.
my goodness.
You were just talked about some bios.
Yeah,
about the bios.
Yeah, the tiredness is really coming through. Yeah, so links to past episodes, photos, bios of us. We've got some blogs on there. And we would love it if you would email us at meeplenation@gmail.com. You can find a link for that as well as our Patreon page. And we'd like to welcome Lance Morgan as our newest patron. Thank you,
Welcome,
Lance. It's good to have you.
Lance, thank you so much. And thank you all of our patrons. We love you and we really appreciate your support.
Totally.
Totally.
I think that segment came in with a lot of duct tape on it, but we got there in the end.
This week, we are talking about our June news. So this is news of everything that we've played over the last month. And now that we're in the month of June, it is now June news. One of our biggest highlights is going to be that we recently just had SaltCon Summer. So kind of off the coattails of our Hug a MeepleCon highlights, we're going straight into our SaltCon highlights. So SaltCon Summer is a 3-day smaller convention here in Utah, and it's a lot less people. It's about half the people as the SaltCon Spring. Still just a load of fun.
We got to spend 2 full days of gaming. It was awesome.
What was everybody's favorite game? Maybe we start off with that. Nathan, what was your favorite game you played at SaltCon Summer this year?
Brent Mayer, our emeritus host, one of the original hosts of Meeple Nation, he and I got together and we played a couple of games. He put a Facebook post out there asking that exact same question. And he mentioned that his was a game called That's Not a Hat, a game that I introduced him to. I introduced several people. I think I played it a total of 7 times over the 2 days that we were at SaltCon, and everybody both hated and loved that game. Had a blast playing it. Even got Andy and Doug to play it. I even got Doug to play it. You didn't play it? You are just no fun.
I was busy teaching.
Okay.
He was busy.
All right.
Otherwise, he was
And
totally in.
I'm going to tell you that based on your description of this game, I really did not think I was going to like it at all. And I had a great time. This is a dumb little card game.
It
like,
is.
Like what? Like a $5 box of cards? I mean, like it shouldn't work, but it really does. It's great. It's a fun little game.
I was at the table with Brent and Jenna. You guys got to play this game. It's a cheap, dumb game. And Jenna's like, "Are you trying to sell this game? Why are you?" I'm like, "No, it is. I'm selling it for what it is, but the experience that you get out of it, hand over fist, is well worth the $12 or whatever the game costs." It was such a blast, and I think I've played it 25 times now, and that's just since owning it in, I think it was the end of April, month and a half, almost 2 months. And I've played that game 25 times. Anytime there's a lull in people, a lull in gaming, or a lull at anything, I'm like, here, let's play this game. And it has been a huge success. When we first talked about it in our last news episode, got a message from Claudine that had expressed the exact same thing. They're playing it at Hug Meeple Con. They went and bought a couple. Everybody that they've played with it have just loved it and hated it at the same time. So it's a great game. But yeah, that's not a hat. By far, my highlight of the con, and probably my favorite game for the last 2 months.
It's taken the world by storm.
It is, yeah.
Or at least
One
the
table at a
nation.
time.
The Meeple Nation.
That's not a hat.
Dave, what about you?
You know me. That's always a hard question to answer. And honestly, I think the game that I enjoyed the most is not really a game yet. It's our cousin, Max Holiday. Maddie is what I call him, but none of you should, because I don't think he likes it from anybody else.
I don't think he likes it from you either.
He
Nathan's right, I think.
he accepts it lovingly.
Yeah,
lovingly.
Tolerantly, I think is that a word? It is now.
It is now. Okay, but his game that he's working on, it's called Galaxy Ludum, and it's just very, very good. He originally had it themed differently. He changed it recently so that it has a space theme. I know you played the original Cathedrals game that he had.
Yeah,
so
I've played it. I really liked it, so I'd be curious to check out the sort of space theme that's thrown on it.
Yeah, he told me that he changed it, and I was like, "Oh, why'd you do that?" But it works great, and I think it works better. Actually,
so is that to go along with his game Starship Ludum?
Yeah, it is
following the same theme.
Yeah, I think it's so that they can be related and be in the same universe, kind of a thing. So, anyway, that was probably my favorite one of the con. But I mean, there were a lot of good ones, right? Like Earth is always fun. I enjoyed our play of Earth. I enjoyed our play of Everdell more than Doug did.
I think you enjoyed it a lot more than I did.
And a Revive, that would probably be the other one that I liked the most.
Yeah, I was glad we got that one played. I taught that one the first day of SaltCon, but I didn't get to play it. And so I just sat and watched and kind of made sure rules were being followed. Nathan was actually in that game and really did very well, played an amazing game of that. And so day 2, we were able to get that to the table, and I loved it. Revive is fantastic.
It is
what
a
a
good
great game.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. And you talk about games that you're trying to cull games that the rest of the group has, so that we don't have multiple copies. And I'm really having a hard time not picking this game up, just because if we want to play it and you're not here or it's at your house, that's always the downside, right? But well, I'll probably hold off buying it. But I really did enjoy the game, and that has nothing to do with the fact that I won by 100 points. Or no way, that was Millie Fiore, huh? Never mind.
Yeah, that was Millie Fiore, but you did score over 100 points in Revive, and I can't remember what the other scores were of that game just off the top of my head, but it was you won that game by a significant amount.
I like the humble brag, maybe not a humble brag. I like the brag though, Nate. You deserved it. Good job.
Yeah, I was trying to rub that in because Cheryl, my wife, played Millie Fiore with us, Doug, myself, and who else?
If there were only an app that you could use.
Logan was the other player.
Cheryl played that game with Doug, myself, and Logan, and she did really well. I just recently turned her on to this game, and Millie Fiore has such a beautiful table presence with the clear plastic tiles of the bright colors and the way the board's laid out, and just as enjoyable to look at. Kind of has I wouldn't say it's a big teach, but once you get past the teach, the mechanics are very, very simple. And you draft a card, play a card, pass the hand. And but yeah, I was very excited to have to be allowed to. I can't even remember what the section of the map is called, but where I'm gathering resources. And
it's that top section where you get points for having all your tiles adjacent to each other.
Yeah, and everybody just let me run amok up there, and I scored a ton of points.
Yeah, a lot.
I think I maybe had 6 tiles that weren't in that section, and all of my stuff was adjacent. So yeah, it was. I just ran away with it.
Yeah. Logan kept looking at me like I needed to do something to stop you. And I was in dead last by a lot. Like I was being absolutely trounced. And finally I just turned to him and I was like, what are you looking at me for? Like, I can't do anything.
Yeah. You're the player after me.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it was a good game, but you definitely waltzed away with that one by a significant amount. That was good. I got the chance to play Millie Fiore with the Bremers at Hug a Meeple Con, and I thought that they had enjoyed it quite a bit. So I was excited that they had signed up to play it at SaltCon as well. So played that again with them over SaltCon, and that play went really well. It was good. Millie Fiore is just a super solid game.
Yeah, I'm glad I picked it up, and I'm glad that you own it too.
What about you, Andy?
You picked up Meeple Fury too?
I did. Do you have a copy?
No.
Should I order one for you?
No. I don't think so. I liked it a lot, but 2 copies in the group is enough.
Is it?
Yeah, I think so.
If we do just a little bit of organizing before game night and be like, hey, what are we going to get to the table? That way, if somebody is not going to be there, we could at least be like, hey, we really want to play.
Yeah,
we talked about a minute ago.
The problem is that everybody's like, I'm hoping to be there.
Yeah.
'Cause I do the exact same thing on Friday nights too. It's like, I hope to be there.
Yeah.
But
true.
hope in one hand and put mud in the other and see which one fills first.
Reality in the other as well.
Reality. That's exact. Yeah, that's a great. Sometimes reality is not so fun, but
That's true.
What was your favorite game of the con?
Mine is one we've talked about a couple of times on the podcast, but I had a ton of fun with it. And it was actually the last game we played of the con. And that was Tiny Turbo Cars. We played, that was Nathan, you, Doug, and myself, and Adam Wills.
yes.
And it was Adam's first time, his first experience with Tiny Turbo Cars. And I swear, every time I play that game, I like it more than the previous time.
Such a great game.
It is just, thematically, it is just spot on. And I don't know, it's just the fact that the board can change. I haven't played the same board a single time. I haven't played the same car because they have a ton of different cars to try out that all have asymmetrical powers. And I like the higher player count because it creates a lot more mayhem. And I think when we first started playing, when someone would shoot a rocket forward, like hardly anybody ever got hit. I got hit twice in that game with a rocket. In fact, one of the times I was completely out of battery power, so I knew I was going to have to forfeit my next 3 actions right out of the gate just to charge my batteries. It's just such a fun game, and the laughs that you get, and I know Doug got frustrated and was just, no, I messed up after he already took a smiley face a couple of times.
But it's the fun frustration, right? It's the same kind of frustration as like if anyone out there has ever had the experience of using, or driving one of those little RC cars and you just get it stuck in that awkward little place and you're like, no, go not forward, back, no. It's that frustration, right? That plays out in that little tile puzzle. And man, I'm bad at that puzzle. But I'm all about it. Yeah, Tiny Turbo Cars is really good. I will say I think that the game is more successful when the players at the table really embrace the theme and what the game is trying to do. And we've had a couple of plays now where not everyone was as invested, and it was still really fun, but maybe not quite as good. That game at SaltCon, though, we were all about what was going on, and when you get caught in the smoke and have to program upside down or whatever it was that was going on, it just led to a lot of laughs and a lot of fun. So
Yeah, it really did. It was a really fun play.
So I've kind of chimed in on a few things here, but I will just say my highlight of SaltCon was actually playing Foundations of Rome with Cheryl. So I was super excited that Cheryl came to SaltCon, and kind of bummed that none of the other wives were able to make it, because I actually think they would have had a really great time together, especially at a convention that has fewer people and more space to spread out and everything. But I was glad that she came and got to play a couple of games with her, actually. But we played Foundations of Rome, and I've talked about this before. You pull that box out and it's just super intimidating. And the look on her face, just big saucer eyes and just like, no, I do not.
I warned her about it first.
Yeah. And, but again, and I've said this before, the rules teach for that 5, maybe 10 minutes if you're playing with some expansions and stuff. But did a really quick rules explanation, handed everyone their trays, and we were off to build Rome, and had a fantastic time. So that it was me, Cheryl, Logan, and Dave and Tammy Bremer. So they had signed up for that game as well. And it played in about an hour, and Cheryl really stumbled into / discovered, right, some of the key scoring strategies, which is you place those civic buildings out in strategic places. And she put one of her civic buildings that scores based on its adjacent population. She planted that right in the middle of some of the big population buildings, and just ran away with that game and was delighted about it. It
buildings
was awesome.
that wouldn't get replaced on her, and
right,
that were going to be there.
Right, they were the big ones. They
game.
were there to stay, and she capitalized on it and just walked away with that. It was awesome.
Yeah, she really loves those pattern development games, pattern building games like Patchwork. So that was right up her alley. So Foundations of Rome was one she was very much excited about afterwards. Almost to the point where she wanted me to buy it, but with the price tag it has currently on eBay, she was like, no.
Yeah, it's not cheap.
But again, a very good game.
What other highlights do y'all have from the con?
Well,
I had a couple more still,
Yeah.
but go ahead.
I'll piggyback right into since we're talking about playing games with Cheryl. So one of the other games that we got to play was Heat Pedal to the Metal. And this one, I had come the night before to do some SaltCon prep, and you had given me my copy that came in the mail. And so, hadn't played it, still in shrink. And so the morning of the convention, I decided, I was up early, and I decided to, throw up old Rodney Smith and watch the How to Play video. And I was really excited that we got to play that at the convention. It was kind of impromptu. We just grabbed as many people as kind of wanted to play. But I first of all, loved the game. And it's a game that I think we should talk about at some point in a little more detail. Fantastic racing game based on, hand management and cards and not really deck building, but sort of deck management.
Yeah, hand management for sure.
Yeah. But again, Cheryl just found the magic combo on that one, and yeah, she was first across the finish line. She did a great job. It was really
a whole
fun.
round before anybody else.
Yeah. Yep. It was great.
Yeah, she loved that first day, and then didn't stay for the second day, so it was kind of a bummer.
Maybe she was trying to go out on a high.
It could be.
I enjoyed Heat. Not my favorite, but I enjoyed it. And in fact, that made my list of things that I wanted to mention. I guess kind of a low light for me was I was actually really hoping that we'd get to see some of the Hug ladies. I couldn't remember. I know we talked about it with them. I couldn't remember if any of them were going to be coming. So it was a little bummer that we didn't. But we made some new friends too. We got to play with Dave and Tammy Bremer, which was awesome. And several other people, like Aaron Williams, got to come and play with us.
Reggie and Reggie's guest, Rachel, and Atlee played several games with me.
There were several people, but some new friends that I really enjoyed. I didn't actually get a chance to play a game with them, but they played a game with Andy. It was Caleb and Morgan McKee, and they're just this young couple that was just super fun, very, very friendly. I actually ended up talking with them quite a bit after that because he's in med school right now, and I've been flirting with the idea And so I wanted to pick his brain. I hope that we're still considered friends after I wouldn't shut up for so long. But thanks again. I want to thank you again, if you're listening, for letting me chat you to death.
Yeah, that's awesome. And Ethan Bloom, he signed up for a couple of the games and had a really great time getting to know him. Really sharp kid, did a fantastic job playing some of those games. So
yeah, he enjoyed the social deduction games too, the werewolf and blood on the clock tower.
awesome. Yeah, that's great.
I got to play a game with Derek and Katie Hepworth and Janessa Welker, my teach of Everdell, and we brought the New Leaf expansion into the game, and it was really fun. That was a fun teach, and it was their first time playing, and I was super impressed with how quickly they all caught on to everything. And honestly, it was one of those games that the thing about Everdell is, you finish when you finish, and it's not always at the same time, right? So certain players can keep going, and it was all pretty close. Within just a few rounds of everyone finished the game. And honestly, they all had a good time. It was a fun teach. It was a really fun play, and I've played that with that expansion now 3 times, and I have liked it more and more every time I've played with it.
On that note, honestly, thank you so much, any of you who have signed up to play games with us, for coming and joining us. We love that. That's always going to be a highlight for us, especially when we get a chance to interact with you more than just the game. And we would love to hear, if you're going to be coming to a future event, what kind of games you would like us to host, and that you would like to get a chance to sit down and play with us. So again, you can visit us at that email Doug told you about earlier, or our Facebook page, or any of the others.
Yeah, seriously, reach out, because I think Nathan just shared the document like yesterday. So we are already starting to look at what games we want to host and what we want to do for SaltCon end of summer. So,
which is September 1st through the 3rd. Coming up pretty quick. You talked about Janessa. Janessa played Feed the Kraken, which she was very happy to have her there, because she'd played the game several times. And I thought I was pretty good on the rules, but it was so good to have her there to help out with that. And Feed the Kraken is such a great game. And then speaking of Derek and Katie, they were in our game of Ready, Set, Bet. And that was a very exciting game, and got very loud as we were yelling at the horses as the horse race, because it has a very nice app so that a player doesn't have to run the horse bet or the horse race. And so it allows everybody that's playing to be actively betting on the horses. And it's a game that goes over 4 legs, and then whomever has the most money at the end is the winner. But it was very fun to have, Dave was standing up yelling at my tablet to, go number 4, go number 4. And it was great. People were starting to turn their heads as they were walking by. But Ready, Set, Bet, phenomenal betting game.
That was a fun game, and I had a favorite part about that game, and I wasn't playing. I wasn't even at the table. In fact, my back was turned to it. But Richie was really getting anxious with all the noise coming from the table, and just knowing what the game was, and it was really funny to watch him kind of get anxious, and he wasn't even playing the game.
He wasn't even in the game.
No, it was kind of hilarious to watch.
But yeah, Ready, Set, Bet, great game.
I enjoyed it. I only got to play that once. I need to play that one again.
Yeah, and the app for it is phenomenal. It just has a little guy that narrates and number 4 coming from behind. Adds some excitement to it, and does it very well.
Very well done. Very well done.
I also got
Go ahead.
I also got a chance to play Camel Up a couple of times. That was one of the games that I hosted. And it was crazy. One of the things that I like about this game is it's extremely different every time you play it. It's a very simple game that changes so much. The first play was the fastest game I've ever had of that. It was less than 20 minutes. It was just a good time. I got to play that with Alex Delaney and Candy Carter and Kennedy Brandon, and Amara and Sierra both played. So we had a full table, and we played it twice in a little over an hour.
You mentioned the McKees Morgan and Caleb, and you've mentioned Aaron also. 4 of us got to play Wayfarers of the South Tigris. And I know that in our group there's some mixed reviews on that game.
I don't know what you're talking about.
But Doug, I understand where you're coming from, because there's a lot going on in Wayfarers of the South Tigris. It's kind of a game you got to wrap your head around a little bit, because of there's just a lot you have to kind of plan for early on, right? Because you can get what happened to Aaron and I in particular. Caleb destroyed us in that game. He destroyed all 3 of us, honestly. But he kind of got us inadvertently. It wasn't done on purpose, but there are certain icons as you're going up that journey track. There's certain icons you need to progress, and Caleb had taken all the cards, had all those icons, thinking they were worth points when that was not the case. But it made all of us get stuck and we couldn't move. So it worked out well for him. But nevertheless, I think all 4 of us had a lot of fun with Wayfarers of the South Tigris, and it makes me really excited for the next one that's coming out, the next South Tigris game. And I mean, like all of them, they've just done such a great job with all of their installments of the West Kingdom trilogy in particular are my favorites. But I think that personally, I feel that the Wayfarers of the South Tigris is really unique, and it holds its own with the rest of the games, I feel like.
Yeah, I think more than probably all of the other Shem Phillips games in this sort of line of games that he's doing, I think Wayfarers requires players to really plan ahead, more so than the others do.
For sure.
And you really do have to kind of understand that going into it. I think this is actually a really great game. My negativity toward it was just because it was self-inflicted, because I couldn't grok it. I just couldn't figure it out. And so when the dust settled, my score was half of what the winning player was. So it just kind of didn't really click for me. Now that I've played it, kind of know to do that planning, I would like to try that again.
The cool thing about, the fact that they're doing a trilogy with the 4 directions, north, south, east, and west, the artwork's going to be the same on all of them. They've done the same thing with the North Sea, Raiders of the North Sea, and all the North Sea installments, the West Kingdom, all the art was the same. So I would imagine the production's fairly easy. It's just a matter of getting the game tested, and I think I can appreciate that, because all of the games are so different from one another. Like, every single one of them plays different. It's a completely new take on everything, but they don't have to waste time on iconography. All the iconography is the same. All the artwork's the same, and they can just focus on the gameplay and creating a really cool game that's unique and stands apart from the others.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know that the cohesion with the North series was quite as strong, but you look at the West Kingdom series, the Paladins, Architects, and Viscounts, and once you learn that iconography, you've got that. You know what the card is saying and what it's asking you to do, but totally different games. All 3 of those are just so different.
Completely.
Didn't notice a whole lot of synergy between Raiders, Shipwrights, and Explorers. Not as much, I guess is what I'm saying. Architects, Paladins, Viscounts, awesome. And I think that's really where they hit their stride. I say they, Shem Phillips, the team he's working with, I think that's where they hit their stride. Awesome. Well, does anyone have anything else they want to mention from SaltCon before we move on? Because I definitely have some other highlights for the month.
I want to mention 1, maybe 2 more games from SaltCon. Got a chance to play Captain Sonar for the first time.
Oh, I saw that on the table. How was that?
That was a blast. I'd played it once before, but it was where it was turn-based, so everybody would move and resolve and do all that. We just played it real time. If the other sub is talking, they're not moving. The other team has to listen to what the other captain's commands the other captain is issuing and writing those down, regardless of if their team is doing anything or not, trying to track the movement of the other sub. And I had a blast with that game. It was we played it twice. My team happened to win both times because I was an excellent captain. But we got Brent worked with us again on that one and taught that one to the table of 8. And we had Dave and Tammy were on that, Ethan, Sierra. It was a blast. I'm anxious to get that to the table again because it was just the experience of that whole anxiety of what's going on at the first time, and when we're having to stop and try to figure out where they're at, they're still moving. So I'm trying to look at the map that we have of their movements while the navigator's while the comm is still trying to track their movement at the same time and trying to move that overlay over our our terrain to try to figure out where they could possibly be at. Very much enjoyed that.
I was talking to my girls on the way home that last night, and I asked them each what their favorite game that they played was. And Sierra's told me, I don't think I had a favorite. And I'm like, well, so we were kind of talking about the different games. Like, didn't you play Captain Sonar? And then she's like, oh my gosh, that was epic. And then she went on this rave about it for like 10 minutes. And she got done like, well, I guess I know what your favorite game was.
Yeah, it was a blast. And she was on my team, so she won twice too. It was very well done. And then the other game that I wanted to, I'd brought to play with my wife because my wife enjoys games like Dixit and Canvas. And so I had brought this game that I'd had for a little while called Keepers, which has some beautiful photography on the cards, but it plays very similar where somebody's going to give an adverb describing one of the cards they're looking at, and then players are going to all try to find a card. And then you have a dial that you're trying to vote for what you think is most like the word, or instead you can vote for what you think is the least like the word. And then whichever cards get the most votes for the positive or the negative, those cards are keepers. Whomever played those cards gets to put them in front of them as a score. You go around the table twice, so everybody's had the chance to be I think it's called the curator or whatever, to be able to give the clue. And then at the end of that, whomever has the most keepers in front of them wins. Some phenomenal artwork or some phenomenal photography in there. Very beautiful to look at. I got a chance to play that with Chris and Isaac Urinko, who owns Daft Concepts. Done quite a few things. While we were sitting there talking, I was asking him how business was. And Max had also talked about something that they do because Max works with them. But they have little patterns that they print out for games like, Hey, That's My Fish. What kind of got me excited was for Hive. It's framework that you put on the table, and so you can put your pieces in there so that when you accidentally bump them or shove it too hard, it doesn't disrupt the rest of the board. On his Etsy store, you can just buy the STLs for these and then print these files off on your own. I saw what Max had for Hey, That's My Fish and thought, that'd be perfect for Hive. And so he has them for games like Settlers of Catan and anything that you really, or Carcassonne, anything that you're using that kind of that tile grid. And they're fairly cheap to print out, so you just buy the STL, which is fairly inexpensive, and then you can just print those as many as you need and just snap them together as you're expanding your tile laying game.
That is awesome. I actually need to check that out because you have no idea how many times we've played Carcassonne as a family, and my kids keep bumping the board. They place their tile and then they push too hard or whatever, and stuff goes everywhere and it's not lined up anymore. And I'm slightly OCD, so it kind of drives me crazy, and I have to fix the board, and then I get angry and don't want to play.
And also with Carcassonne, it's inevitable that the map expands off the edge of the table, right?
Yeah, yep.
And so with this framework, you can just
shift it,
slide it.
It's great.
Back to the middle of the table, and it works out just great.
It's awesome. Yeah, I'll have to check that out for sure.
Yeah, so go to his Etsy store and look for Daft Concepts. He has lots of cool things and some little screens that you can put over your Calyx shelves that just fit right in there that have some geeky themes. Check that out, Daft Concepts. That's my highlights
From SaltCon.
from SaltCon.
I had a few highlights outside of SaltCon as well, Doug. I got my
Lay them on me.
I got my first win in A Feast for Odin. I was super excited. Although
Yeah, you did very well.
Doug did try to take it away from me, telling me how horribly he did, how much he messed up, trying to take away my victory.
I did mess up on the last round. I'll tell you what it was. It was mostly bad dice rolls. If you haven't played it, A Feast for Odin doesn't rely overly heavily on dice. There's a couple of actions that you can do where you do roll some dice and then you can mitigate the results. Mm-hmm. The strategy I used was just leaned really heavy into using the dice, and I got very unlucky.
And I also had my best game of Ark Nova. My first game might have actually been better, but I wasn't keeping track at that point, and I can't recall. But I finally had another good game of Ark Nova.
Awesome.
I was excited about it.
I really enjoy how they have altered the scoring for Ark Nova. After one player's conservation and appeal passes, rather than just taking the difference for all players when the dust settles, Now you just get positive points for appeal and conservation, and you just tally them together. And it works so much better. I really like that.
I'd have to play it again after that. I culled my copy, which is also another highlight of SaltCon.
I feel bad that this one didn't hit for you, Nathan, because I really love Ark Nova. It's great.
Same.
I still am sort of holding out hope that we can convert Andy. I don't know that his first play of that was super positive either.
It was not.
Yeah.
It wasn't Terraforming Mars bad, but it was not great.
Yeah, we need to try that again under more favorable circumstances.
So what else do you got for the rest of the month?
Well, we got to continue our amazing campaign of Descent Journeys in the Dark, 2nd edition.
That's right.
And we didn't get another play-in like I was hoping. Dave had to still be married and try to stay married and hang out with his wife and make good choices. Dang it, David.
We go back to that hope in one hand and reality in the other, right?
We had a blast. We got together and we had the first half of the day anyway, and it was one of those things that when we have the spare time, trying to get through some campaign games, and that's kind of been our priority this year. So that one was a fun one to get to the table. I know, Nathan, I'm glad you haven't culled this yet, but Bad Company, it's like a fun version of Space Base. I think it's great.
You know what else is a fun version of Space Base? Space Base.
Not Space Base.
That's not true.
Nope. Yeah. That's just false.
No, Nate has a point.
I've enjoyed the 2 plays that I've played of Bad Company. If you ever do cull it, you can cull it to me. I'll buy it from you.
The first play, I hated the first play. Second play was less anger. Still not in my favorite list at all, but I'm going to try it a couple more times before I give it the axe. Because I see the appeal for it. I mean, I see the similarity between that and Space Base. I think it's quite a bit different from Space Base. I've had some bad experiences playing Space Base as well. Bad Company just doesn't seem to be firing on all cylinders for me, but I need to give it a couple more tries before I give it the boot.
I know that we've already talked about Feed the Kraken at SaltCon, but we played that at a game night here. I think it was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, in preparation for SaltCon.
In preparation, and that was a really fun play. Logan was the cultist, and he converted me over, and then he converted you over, and I had a feeling that he had converted you, and then my goal was it's like, I've got to be the captain so I can decide who gets thrown overboard. I ousted you as captain just in case he didn't convert you. Sure enough, I was able to throw Logan overboard to feed him to the Kraken, and we ended up winning. And it was funny because you high-fived Logan when I threw him overboard. I'm like, yeah, give me a high five too. He's like, wait, what? You were a cultist too? I'm like, yep, I sure was.
Yeah, that was good times. I really enjoy this game, and every play gets better and better. I need to find the deluxe version still, I think, because it has just a couple little highlights that, the nice poker chips for the rolls, and the navigator and the lieutenant badges are a little bit bigger, and that navigator has that wheel that spins, which is always nice. Feed the Kraken, such a great game. And it's funny how so many of those games end up in that pivotal.
You got this.
Pivotal point where the ship is at that final location where it can go one space north for the cultists to win, one space to the west for the pirates to win, and one space to the east for the sailors to win. All but one game that I have played, the game ends right there. Such a good game.
This is one that I keep finding myself on the table adjacent to where this is being played, and I still haven't had a chance to play this, and I'm super intrigued. So hopefully soon.
I think you'll like it, and I think you'll like Unfathomable too.
We played Unfathomable.
Oh, that's right. We played Unfathomable.
Yeah, and it is good. I liked it quite a lot, actually.
And hit and roll games aren't typically my favorite, but I did enjoy our play of Feed the Kraken. It's short, right? I mean, you're half hour, 45 minutes maybe. If you have the hidden roll scratch that you need itched, it does that for you. But for those who don't particularly enjoy hidden roll games quite so much, which I fall in that line, I don't dislike them, but they're not my favorite. Having a shorter game that has that hidden roll is nice. It's fun, but it's not to the point where you're like, oh my gosh, let's just end this. You end on a high note, which is exactly how I felt when we played that.
And you do turn the map over, and it's a little bit longer on the other side, but not a ton longer. It's got I think it goes for maybe 2, maybe 3 more rounds, depending on where the boat goes. So,
well, I've kind of mentioned this before, but down in my game room, I have my game table kind of set up in the middle. And then I have several side tables that kind of go, they form sort of a semicircle to the side and behind where I usually sit. And on those tables, I will set up games that I just want to, I'm either learning them and they have, more complex rule sets. So I want to like play a round or two, or they're, solo games or just things that I want to play and experience. So I've, played through all of Aetherfields that way. And I typically have at least one or two games set up on those side tables. Well, I had gotten out Stars of Ikarios and loved it so much. I was like, okay, well, we need to play that as a group. So I, boxed that one back up, and we've been playing and really enjoying that game. It's phenomenal. But so I had a spare table and sat down one Sunday this last month, and I was like, okay, well, I had a good experience with the space theme, and so I'm going to get another big game out and learn and start playing. So I grabbed my copy of ISS Vanguard off the shelf, got it out, took a few hours to really go over the rules, and it actually does a really good job. You'd play a tutorial mission, learn the rules. It actually teaches you the rules as you play. Does a really good job. I have to tell you, right now, this is like kind of the new hotness for me. I'm absolutely in love with this game right now. I'm torn because, again, it goes into that category of game that I think you guys would like, and I would like to play it with you. But it also is incredibly heavy on the narrative, like very, very heavy on narrative components and story and that kind of thing. Now, it has a very well done app that reads everything and walks you through everything and does all that. But sometimes I feel like our group gets a little bogged. We get a little bogged down in some of the narration. And so I'm a little torn on that one. For right now, I think this is one that'll stay on the side table, and then I'm going to start making my way through. But man, I am just in love with this game. ISS Vanguard, amazing game.
Yeah, we need to hurry up and get through Stars of Ikarios, because I would like to play this. There was somebody was selling a copy at SaltCon that I almost bought, and I had to ask if anybody already owned it. I think I knew you already owned it, but I had to confirm that you did, so I passed on that, which was probably a smart thing. But ISS Vanguard looks awesome.
Yeah, this is another game by Awaken Realms. The story's super intriguing. It's got really actually kind of a fantastic setup. So the idea is that sometime in the future, and scientists discover in our junk DNA coordinates for some distant solar system, some distant place in space. And so humanity does its thing where suddenly we all sort of rally, and over the course of decades we develop new technologies and all this stuff. We build this big ship, take a crashed alien craft from the Russians. We're able to get this ship to go. The tutorial mission is actually us arriving. The ISS Vanguard is the ship we build, and it's humanity arriving at this. They call them the divine coordinates. But yeah, and the story that starts to unfold from there is just really intriguing. If you love the space and you love space exploration and the space theme, this is one that I really recommend. It's great.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Sounds awesome.
So a couple new games that I also got to the table were Dice Hospital ER, Emergency Roll, and Tucano and Copenhagen. I was really excited to get all these to the table because they actually all have a really good BGA implementation, so that I could get my wife to play a little bit more variety of games. I'm getting a little stale on the 24 games that we play there. So we needed some variety. Dice Hospital it's a simple roll and write game where you have 7 hospital wards. There's 3 dice that you roll, and each one is associated with an ambulance that will provide some sort of special ability. And you need to fill your hospital ward beds and with numbers, and you have to start from the lower. The next number can be higher than the number previously placed in that ward. And then some of those wards have 3 beds, some of those wards have 7 beds, and so you have to be able to try to plan for that and manipulate your dice, because you have stethoscopes that will allow you to change the pip value. You have blood bags that will allow you to change the color value, because each bed requires certain colors. Great game, worked out really well. Played that with Sierra twice and played it with my wife once. Tucano is a set collecting game. You have 3 rows, and on your turn you're going to select one of those rows to take, and you're going to take all the cards in that row and add it to your tableau, your toucan trying to eat, and it's all fruit. But sometimes the fruit's bad for you, sometimes the fruit's good for you. So if you collect too much of the bad fruit, then you're going to get negative points. But you want to collect a bunch of the good fruit so that hopefully your negative points will outweigh your positive points. And then there's a couple of toucan cards that will allow you to give a card to your opponent or take a card from your opponent. And then there's another toucan that will allow you to flip your cards off face down so that they're no longer available to give or take from your opponent. Very, very simple game, very short, but works out great. The BGA implementation on it is good. And then the last one was Copenhagen, which is, there's a roll and write version of this, but the regular version has some very nice acrylic windows, and you're all building up the facade of the town in Copenhagen. As you build the facade, you want to get rows and columns that have all windows because they're worth more points, but you have different colors. There's 4 different colors, maybe 5, that you have to use to try to build up the facade of your buildings. Super simple, but a fun game. And all 3 of those are all also available on BGA as an online implementation, and all work really well. But it was nice to get all 3 of those to the table.
That's awesome. You got so many games to the table this last month.
Yeah, I was really excited.
So I've got a question for you guys. Did you guys ever wonder what you would do in a post-apocalyptic world? What you would do for money to earn money?
Well, I would probably set up a delivery service.
What?
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
What would you deliver, Doug?
Where are you going with this, Andy?
We got to introduce Doug to a new game that he hadn't played.
Oh, man. Yeah, so the night that we played Descent, we kind of had a game day, and I think you had to go home, Dave, I believe, but Richie came over. And so the 3 of us busted out a Wasteland Express delivery service. Oh my goodness, I love this game. This is a great game. Yeah, it was good. And I think you were a little bit worried because I was over there kind of hands on my teeples and just looking down and just, shaking my head and trying to figure this game out. And it probably didn't seem like I was having a great time, but I was loving it. The puzzle of this game is phenomenal. And I totally screwed it up a bunch of times, but that efficiency puzzle that it provides and just being able to build out your car and load it full of all kinds of cool stuff and machine guns and cargo slots and all this kind of stuff, man, I'm all in. This was so much fun. I loved it.
Yeah, it was another one that Richie, it was Richie's first play of that as well, and he was the same. He's like, this is actually a really cool game, and the theme didn't strike home for him because that's not, far and away, not his favorite theme. He couldn't care less about the theme. We got done playing, and he's like, oh, that was really fun. That was a really great game. And honestly, I don't think have I ever won that game? I'm not sure I have, but it doesn't matter because I have so much fun playing it every single time. It's just one of those games for me.
Yeah, I was getting really strong Mad Max Fury Road vibes from it, and I was loving every minute. It was great.
Great game. One last one I want to hit on was last week while we were playing Citadels at the one table. Andy didn't want to play that game, so he sat at the other table and learned Distilled, which was a recent Kickstarter fulfillment that we got. And so we were able to play that after sitting through Citadels. And Distilled was very good. I enjoyed the game. I think I lost terribly, but the ability and the way that you make your spirits worked out really well. I think that was where I struggled the most, was trying to understand how we were, I was going to say conjuring these spirits, but brewing these spirits, producing the alcohol that we could sell was done very well. This is a game I'm looking forward to playing again.
Yeah, it was really kind of interesting how when you're brewing it, you're not quite sure exactly what you're going to get. So, depending on what cards come in and which ones you have to discard a couple of cards. You have to shuffle up what you put into when you're making your brew, and what's left over kind of dictates what you get. And you have to have certain recipes unlocked to be able to make certain types of the spirits or the liquor. And it was really cool how it all worked out, where you have to have water, even though you can't sell the water. You have to have the yeast, and it's worthless, but you still have to have it to make your brew. And then certain ones you can age, or you have to age them, and the longer they age, the more they're worth, but you run the risk of the game ending and not being able to sell them at the same time. So yeah, there was a lot to it, and I agree, it was a lot of fun. And I'm really, really glad I did not sit through that really long game of Citadels, because that sounded really miserable.
It was supposed to be short, but it was definitely not. And then also one last thing is I finally did get a chance to play Earth. Thank you for teaching that, Doug. And that was a very good game.
Yeah, Earth is great.
I think Earth's going to be a reoccurring game that we talk about from time to time. Probably we need to do an episode on that at some point, but Earth's fantastic. Really good. So I have a couple others that I will also make mention of just really quick. My daughter, my wife and I have been in the middle of a game called My City. So this is a little polyomino placement game by Reiner Knizia. It's a legacy style game. So you mark up the map and you components change. You put a lot of stickers out, that kind of thing. It takes 24 games to get through it, to get through the whole, I guess campaign is what you'd call it. My daughter and I were loving this game. My wife was not. And it just kept getting worse and worse for her, but we really wanted to finish it. There were 2 games left. And so my daughter and I were like, okay, Lydia, we will burn this game if you will come and play the last 2 games. And a game lasts maybe 30 minutes, so they're pretty quick to get through. So she was like, okay, you agree to let me burn this copy of My City, and I will sit down and finish this with you. So we sat down, we finished playing My City the last 2 games. I don't even remember who won at this point, but we promptly scooped everything up, just threw it right back into the box, took it out. We can have one of those little portable fire pits, pulled that out, dumped some gas all over it, and struck a match. And my wife just watched in glee as that game burned to ash. So I actually recommend it. It was a pretty good game, but she did not like it. But burning it made it all worth it.
That's really, really cool that she finished that with you. It was very mature of her.
Yeah, Andy, how about if you finish Seafall, I'll allow you to burn Seafall.
I thrive on my immaturity.
I knew as soon as I said that was mature, I was like, that's really a bad thing to say because Andy's gonna just love that and go roll with it. There's more reason not to finish.
Oh, that's awesome. And then one last thing that I was just going to throw out there, and this is something that we all played and participated in. We did get Sword and Sorcery to the table. And I really like this game. I think the system in it is really good. I kind of was intrigued at the setup from a story, from a narrative standpoint. The in-between mission stuff where you're kind of exploring through like the ruins and stuff. Boy, I thought this game had so much going for it. This game really hit at the wrong time. And man, this is something we need to talk about at some point because right now I am just on campaign overload. And this is probably one of the heaviest games that we've ever sat down and learned. I think this has a 4.2, 4.3 on
even
BGG.
higher than that.
Might even be higher than that, but super complicated game. But I really thought that it was very good. And we know that there's a 3rd edition coming out. So I think this is one we're going to postpone until the 3rd edition comes out and hopefully get it to the table at a future date. But I did enjoy it. I thought it was good.
I could really see this becoming one of my very favorite games. I really enjoyed it, and I think I'm going to buy a copy.
Since I sold mine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 4.41.
Oof. And it feels it. You feel that way. Yeah. I could see that.
But like by the time we got through with our second play, me, Richie, Jared McKeith, and Logan McKeith, we were rolling at that point, and it didn't, like, the heaviness finally started to kind of go away, and it was just enjoyment. It was just really cool.
That's awesome. So at the tail end here, there's a couple of new games that are coming out that were of note that I thought. Planet Unknown does have a new Kickstarter coming out with the expansion, if I recall correctly, Unknown Moon, if I recall. And then there's also Ticket to Ride Legacy coming out. So that sounds kind of interesting. I'm intrigued by that.
I'm not telling my daughter because she will be all over that.
Have they
I'll tell her.
confirmed that is
Traitor.
a legacy game?
Yeah, Ticket to Ride Legacy, Legends of the West.
Okay. So
In Ticket to Ride Legacy, Legends of the West, players embark on 12 journeys across North America as 19th century pioneers. The campaign begins on the East Coast with players working their way to the west from one adventure to the next. As in Ticket to Ride, completing your tickets will remain your primary goal. As the story progresses, you will open frontier boxes that unlock new rules, content, and many more surprises.
Yeah, this actually sounds kind of intriguing. I'm a little bit more into the design pedigree than the description. This is Rob Daviau, who was pivotal in Cthulhu Death May Die, which is one of my favorite games. This is Matt Leacock, who is Pandemic, right? Pandemic fame, and then Alan R. Moon, who of course is the father of all the Ticket to Ride stuff. So some amazing minds behind this legacy game that I'm pretty intrigued by this.
Yeah, it's gonna be good.
I'm excited that they're reprinting Planet Unknown.
Yeah.
I know that you own that already, Nathan, but that one's going to end up at my house too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm hoping
mine
with the
as
new
well.
version they have something to cover the Lazy Susan so that your pieces stay in the Lazy Susan.
Hopefully.
Regardless, a lot of people are anxious to pick this game up, so
I hope it comes in a bigger box. That way it can be more intimidating.
more intimidating to Cheryl. Yes.
All right. Well, we are way over our typical 30-minute time frame here, so I think we'll wrap it up.
Until next.
Oh, I thought you were going to do it again.
Until next time.
Until next time.
We'll see you at the game table.
Nice job.
Thank you for listening and being a part of Meeple Nation. If you would be so kind as to follow, subscribe, share, and rate or review this podcast, it really helps to spread the fun. You can be more involved in supporting the podcast by joining the nation at patreon.com/Meeple Nation, or you can find a link at the top of our webpage, meeplenation.com. And while you're there, look at all our extra content. There are links to all our past episodes, a wide variety of blogs, pictures from our Instagram feed, and bios for all the hosts and our awesome bloggers. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, all under Meeple Nation. If you would like to chat with the hosts or other members of the nation, you can join our Facebook group, Meeple Nation Off Air. We hope to see you again at a game night, a con, or maybe a suspense-driven evening of werewolf. Thank you for listening and supporting Meeple Nation, and stay tuned for next week's episode.
Thank you so much for listening. We very much want to thank our patrons who help keep the podcast running. I personally want to thank my co-hosts for all the help they provide with both content here on the podcast, in addition to what we have available on our website. Without them, the podcast would not happen. If you too would like to support the podcast, you can join the nation at patreon.com/Meeple_Nation, or you can find a link to Patreon at the top of our webpage, meeplenation.com. If you have any questions, comments, or games you feel should be on our radar, you can always reach us at meeplenation@gmail.com. We can't wait to hear from you. I am grateful to Doug and Andy who helped me edit episodes, and I want to thank James and Kim Clark who do the editing on our blogs and on our webpage, which can be found at meeplenation.com. We want to thank Brain Detergent for our music. If you want to find more from him, you can follow his links that can be found on our webpage, or simply search for Brain Detergent on YouTube to find more of his tracks. Thank you again for listening and being part of the Meeple Nation community.